This GTX is all muscle, but no shine. Hi everybody, and a warm welcome back to Maple Leaf Customs in Switzerland. I'm Andrew, and on the bench today is a 1:64 scale Hot Wheels 1971 Plymouth GTX from back in the era of muscle cars. And that's an intentional choice today because this is my entry to the 2024 Custom Diecast Invitational hosted by Keith at Outlaw Speed Shop. The theme is muscle cars, and the GTX with a 440 in it is more than qualified. Entrants couldn't be builds that were started before March 1st, so here's proof of that, and the deadline for submissions is today. Keith's gone all out with prizes for different categories. Should be lots of fun, and you'll want to watch as many of the videos as you can. There are guaranteed to be lots of entries and all kinds of variety from the muscle car era. I'm breaking mine down into the separate parts now. You can see it's as basic as it gets with the body, the plastic interior. The glass is okay for a Lucy. Looking at a plastic chassis today. Lots of detail on it though. The original Hot Wheels are made of plastic, so I'm going to pop them out and look for a suitable replacement for this invitational project. Not bad, but I'm sure I can find something a bit nicer laying around here somewhere. That's everything. My projects usually take me about a week, so I'm careful to put everything for one build into a little plastic basket, and then I don't lose them or get them mixed up with anything else. I cleaned up the raggedy edges of the two posts with a Dremel attachment, drilled through them, and here's where I make sure it fits, and they do. And a couple of self-tapping 256 Phillips head screws fill the spot. I'll leave them in there for the paint stripping and all the work that's coming. When you leave a respectful comment below, tell me if you remember the GTX from the late 60s to the early 70s. I sure do. One of my neighbors around the block used to have one and he'd work on it on the driveway all weekend and into the evening as well. What an aggravation for my mom that was. Well, the original yellow paint didn't put up too much of a fight, so off it comes easily. And I'm down to some bare metal, although I'm not going to do a lot of detail on this, and you'll find out why in just a few moments, but I do give it a brass brush treatment, some degreasing, and it goes into the primer, where I hit it with a spray can from the hardware store. I'll let that set up for a few hours. Coming up on my channel at the end of April is the Four Horsemen Mini Monster Trucks theme. I've chosen a tuned Porsche 911 Turbo. Look what they've done to it. I've got a 55 Chevy Gasser coming up, a special New York City edition, and a Playing Mantis by Johnny Lightning. Phase 3 of the super huge ginormous build-off is also coming in mid-May. I hope you'll catch all of these. This is not a pic of my GTX, but it's a hint of what's coming. First thing I'm going to do is mask up on top of the gray primer to get ready for some extensive rust effects and weathering. I shot it with some rust primer, peel off the purple painter's tape, and I'm left with this patchwork here. I'm hand painting a couple of different areas to give the effect that they're replacement panels that have been put on individually over time as the owner works his way around this restoration project. This is a weekends only project for a couple of buddies and a case of beer. The boys are doing their best to put a beloved GTX back together one part at a time. I did some salt chipping on the rust primer, shot some yellow over that, and now I'm just brushing away the salt chips to reveal this nice rust speckled effect. I've already started to distress the colored panels. Now for a little bit of rust wash on top of the roof, just to intensify the rust in certain areas where I think it would be the heaviest. I'm using many different techniques here. This is actually a decal with a rust print on it. First time I've even thought of giving this a try. I put it in place and I need to smooth it out around the wheel well opening. A wet brush takes care of that. But that looks authentic, doesn't it? I'll be using this method again for sure. Back to the rusted roof, I stipple on a couple of different rust colors now, indiscriminately, just to amplify the effect. A racing stripe goes on to the trunk to look like another replacement piece, or maybe that was the original trunk. You decide. There's a welded-on patch on the roof, and a quick 360 to show you some more changes. Everything's well distressed. And if you look closely, there's the remnants of a Shell Oil emblem on the stripped-down driver's door. I like how it's all coming together. Today's community shout-out goes to an Instagram channel called Race Car Collector. There's a link in the description so you can follow this site. Be sure to make yourself known and tell them that you came by from Maple Leaf Customs. The Plymouth GTX was originally introduced as the Belvedere GTX in 1967. It was advertised as a gentleman's muscle car. Standard was Plymouth's 440 cubic inch 7.2 liter V8 engine called the Super Commando 440, rated at 375 horsepower. There was an optional 426 cubic inch 7 liter Hemi. A heavy-duty suspension system was also standard. Partly due to rising insurance rates on muscle cars in the day, sales were low. There were fewer than 3,000 units produced in '71, and only 30 were equipped with the Hemi engine, which was discontinued at the end of production that year. For '72 through '74, any Roadrunner ordered with the optional 440 was renamed Roadrunner GTX and included the badging of both previous models. That big Hemi is the reason for these racing harnesses, as well as an appropriate wheel swap. This is exactly the effect that I was going for, with all kinds of different pieces and panels on the GTX as it slowly gets rebuilt in the garage. I never touched the glass because it is a worn-looking model. Front grille remains the same. There's the safety belts and the front sport seats, and a little bit of detail on the undercarriage of the plastic chassis with the new Goodyear rubber. It's always fun to put all the parts back together because that means we're getting close to the end of the project. This one reassembles quite simply. The glass is held in place by the body, so there's no need for any kind of resin or glue to hold it. I just gotta nudge that grill back into place and it'll be held secure by the front screw. Right. Wheel test. I'll turn it around for a once-over and a burnout. Normally that's the end of the project, but I thought up a couple more little touches to go with this whole restoration motif. So I'm blacking out the rims on the passenger side, back and front. But the driver's side is still sporting some brand new chrome rims. The final touch I've done a couple of times before is to make a tarp to go over top of the car in between restoration shifts. And I'm using some gift wrapping paper for that, but first I cover the whole car with some cling wrap. This is an idea that I got from a viewer the last time I did this. The tarp was sort of permanently on top of the casting. They said, well, you put all that work into it, you should have a removable tarp. Why don't you try doing this? So here it goes. I've scrunched up the tissue paper, approximate the shape that I want it to be. That looks about right. Generously apply some Mod Podge to it, top and bottom. So now it's really moldable, and I just press it into place and make sure it touches the ground on both sides, but doesn't completely cover the car. The next day, it's dried up, and you've got a hard shell, perfectly conformed to the shape of the car. It's that easy. But of course I need to paint that up, and I've decided on this occasion to use some naranja. Brush that on liberally. 2 coats to completely cover the thin tissue paper, but that looks too new. So I put a little bit of gray wash on there just to make it look like a real garage tarp that's been on and off hundreds of times. Added some red and yellow stains to it, and the final touch is the weathering powders, and it gives me this effect. So there's my 71 Plymouth GTX. It was a Lucy. I don't remember where I got it, but I've turned it into a restoration project that looks like this. It's a Frankenstein monster with parts from all over the place. Some are rusted, some are primered. Tarp goes on in between restoration sessions. Great big set of Goodyears on there, and I think it looks fine. Just like that. Had a great time doing this. Keith, thank you for hosting the event. Goes into a custom display case like this in case I put it up for sale. Be sure to check out all of the other builds. It's going to be an ongoing invitational. And thank you for visiting my channel today. Drive carefully. It's coffee time.